like usually your video is like glitchy. I'm like, oh, I wonder how it turns out, but usually it's good. But you can hear me fine, yeah?
Yeah. All clear
Nice
on
one.
my end.
Excellent. I actually have an interesting story to share with you. I was literally just speaking with a guy who's interested in joining the Entourage when it reopens again, and he was saying a big motivator for him wanting to get inside was your transformation story. So he actually came across your content, and then that led him to my content, and then he's just been watching the videos that we've made together. Just been getting super inspired by your stories. A guy who's living in the United States at the moment, just really like interesting individual. You know what I mean? It's like I saw a lot of similarities with what he was saying and where he's at in his life right now to where you were at the start. I'm like, it's just so cool. Like, I just love the fact how we're just attracting this caliber of individual. Like, it's a guy who's like deeply invested in just improving himself, fitness, fashion, finances. Wants to just travel the world, crush it on different continents. I'm just like, this is amazing. Like, this is the exact type of person that we're looking to attract inside this group. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, for people who don't know your story, who are you? Why are you on the stream? Why should people give a flying fuck about you?
Yes, and firstly, that's one of the coolest stories ever. Yeah, it's really amazing to be able to be the reason that somebody reached out to you. George was a big reason that I reached out to you, and so that's huge for me. That's the whole reason I create content. That's the whole reason I decided I wanted to join you in making content in this movement, is because, yeah, I know that there are guys out there just like us. And I know that it's a matter of just finding the individuals, yeah? Less about turning the guys that are on the fence into guys that decide to reach out, and more about, I was looking good. I'd been in the gym for about a year at that point. I had found this look. I looked pretty much identical to what I do right now, as far as my beard, my hairstyle. But with all of these factors, I was getting zero activity in my dating life. I was spending hours polishing up my dating profiles so I could maximize my swipe results, and I was just getting no luck. Excuse me. And so the reason I reached out to Kristian is because I wanted a actual proven method to line up dates for myself. I didn't want to be spending hours on the internet, on YouTube, watching these methods on, what first line to send girls on Tinder. I just wanted a way to actually line up dates for myself. And I didn't know what that would look like. But I came across Kristian's content. My entire world was opened up. At first, it was hard for me to even believe. And then after I can get over that hurdle, then it was hard for me to imagine myself doing what Kristian does. But yeah, I mean, I just took one baby step at a time. First, it was reaching out to Kristian. Then it was lining up a time for us to work together in Poland. But yeah, just step after step, I continued to follow through. I hopped on that plane and flew out to Poland, and now my life is completely different. So after having worked with Kristian back in 2023, now we're about a year and a half away or removed from our Poland experience. And yeah, my dating life, I've documented on multiple live streams with Kristian. It's satisfactory. It's the best word I can use. It's very satisfactory. When I want a date, I can get a date. Literally last live stream, that exact sentence happened, where I told Kristian I had the day off. I wasn't filming content that day with my cousin, so I told him, I want to line up a date today. I have a free day. And that exact thing happened, where we got off the live stream. I ran my errands. I was putting up shots, walking over to girls while doing my errands. No luck there. And I think 7-8 girls later, I found a girl and went on a date with her that day. So it's just crazy to think that I can tell a story like that and have it actually come to fruition. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Yeah, and I think it would actually be cool. I know you don't know the individual, and I know you've got zero background information on him whatsoever. But just as someone that has been inspired by your story, he is looking to potentially hop on a plane next year, like leave the United States, come and join us potentially. I know we've been planning a meetup in March, which we're labeling a Renaissance retreat, and that would actually be epic, mate. If you were there, if he was there, the rest of the guys were there, who were just taking over the city. Oh, mate, that would actually be like poetic justice. If like you were the reason why he wanted to get in contact, hops on a plane and just sees you in the city strutting. That's the thing that dreams are made of. But yeah, for that guy who's in that position now, the position that you were in 15 months ago, what advice? Obviously, apart from join, let's go. But like, I think maybe some like mindset things that maybe that you would find useful if you were in his position right now. Like, is there any preparation? Just what advice would you give to him?
Yeah, well, it's funny you added mindset in that sentence, because what I was going to say when you started asking that was, my advice would be to let your legs carry you. Actually, it would be to switch your brain off as much as possible and to let your legs carry you onto the plane. Let your legs carry you to that Airbnb in Spain, wherever we end up, and let your legs carry you to that first session with Kristian. Because a lot of this is your brain wanting to talk you out of the act. A lot of this is your own mind thinking this is going to be very scary, which it is. It's predicting that it's going to be very psychologically difficult, which it is. And so there are a million different ways for your brain to talk you out of this. And it can sound completely different. One guy's method, one guy's one guy's method would be, oh, I'm too scared. One guy's method would be, oh, this seems creepy. One guy's method would be, oh, my dad was telling me that I should expect this. My dad, before I flew out here, this was mine, right? He was asking me, are the girls going to shoot you? Are you going to end up in a foreign jail, right? And I don't know if he was that extreme, but he was asking about pepper spray and getting locked up in Poland and stuff. And so all this to say, these are all methods for your brain to keep you safe. And instead of listening to these and following any of these threads, I would encourage you, just plug into this content, plug into Kristian, listen to the content, really apply it, really immerse yourself in this whole space for a few months. And yeah, just let your legs carry you out to the meet location, because everything else, it'll be your legs going in anyways. Yeah, it's less about what you're thinking up here, and it's more about what you're doing. Yeah, so you can think for years at a time and nothing will happen. But if you actually get yourself to the location and you walk over to the girl, then that is when your life begins to change. So aside from that, then okay, let's talk about mindset. Yeah, it would be, first I would ask the guy to admit to himself and to recognize that this is going to be very difficult. The second is to be able to admit that he's scared. I think that's probably one of the most important things here. Is we can only do so much for you. I'll speak. Kristian can only do so much for you if you are actually able to be transparent with him and admit what you're going through. So if you're the kind of guy who has too big of an ego, and you want the world to see you as strong and capable and perfect, then it's probably going to be difficult for you to admit to yourself, and then to the world, to Kristian, for example, that you're afraid of walking over to the girl. But that's exactly what you need to admit. That is what frees your brain. Yeah. You think that hiding that fact, it makes you seem cooler, makes you seem more of an alpha. But I'm here telling you that the guys that find success here, and then the guys that have abundant dating lives that I've found, are the guys that are willing to be honest in every area of your life, including this area. Yeah. So I would just encourage you to tell Kristian exactly what you're feeling in the moment, even before you work with him. Yeah. Tell him the doubts that are coming up in your head and allow him to walk you through them. Yeah. So yeah, those would be my pieces of advice.
Yeah, that's quality. That really is quality. I know everyone's operating on their own timeline, but I think most of it just comes down to exactly what you're saying. I don't want to take this action because I'm scared. That's all it comes down to. It's always the same thing. It's like, oh, go and approach her. Oh, she looks busy. She looks bitchy. She looks like she might have a boyfriend. They all translate into the same underlying reason, which is I'm scared. And that's the best thing that you can say to me. If you don't want to do something, just say, I'm scared. I'm shitting it. That's okay. I'm scared too. We're all scared. We're all kind of just making it up as we go along. But the best way to get results in this, especially when you're doing a coaching program like this, is just full radical transparency. That's the best way forward. That's how you become coachable. It's when there's no bullshit anymore. Freedom from bullshit. That's the energy that we move with. Just be honest. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with me. You'll get better results. Right, cool. Let's talk about the actual topic of the live stream. So you've gone from somebody who was not getting a sniff on the apps, whatever other methods you were using. I think at one point you were DMing on Facebook. I can't remember. Oh, God, man, you've come a long way. You've come a long way since Facebook Messenger lead acquisition. Hey, do you remember me? It's me, Ephraim. That's actually funny. You should make like a roast video on yourself. So you've gone from that guy. I mean, you probably have. you've gone from that guy to where you're at now. So you've unlocked this skill set, and not only are you getting dates on demand, but you're also managing. The last time that I learned, anyway, you're managing multiple relationships. So working a busy job, hectic lifestyle, without losing your mind. So like, how have you been able to do that? First of all, like how have you been able to go from where you were to where you're at now, and how are you actually able to manage all these different relationships without losing your goddamn mind?
Oh yeah, I'll answer this. Firstly, it was Instagram. All right, I'm not that ancient. I haven't touched Facebook in a decade. Okay. Yeah. To be fair, just as pathetic. I was spamming. I was mass DMing on Instagram. But so, oh, and actually, I think I will make that. That's actually a great shot. I think I will make a roast video where I just go over all of the left on red DMs that I sent back in 2022.
Good.
Oh, that'd be perfect.
I mass DM'd 100 women on Instagram, and here's
Yeah.
what happened.
Yeah, absolutely nothing. The video would be 2 minutes long, right? So yeah, your question. So it was a process to answer. It was a very long process for me. Well, I guess it wasn't long in theory. It was only a few months, but it was actually a few years long if you count the groundwork that I was putting in. So yeah, for me, I started out. I was scared to be honest with the women that I was intimate with. So this is prior to cold approach, when I would finally secure a girlfriend, let's say, or something related to a girlfriend. I would be scared to be completely honest with her. So what would honest Ephraim say to her? I would have said, "Hey, I'm not in a position in my life where I want an exclusive capital G girlfriend right now, but I like the time that we're spending together. So if you're cool with the situation, then let's keep doing it." Something along those lines, right? Something that I'm really able to say very easily now to women. But before, I was living in this scarcity mode where I was worried that saying that could mean that she would leave. And it does mean that she could leave, right? That's the whole point of me saying it. But I was afraid of that before because I was worried, oh, if this girl leaves, how long until I find another girlfriend? How long until I get laid? I was really scared of like um, the perceived loneliness, yeah, the perceived time that it would take for me to find another girlfriend, basically, to replace this girl in front of me. So that was the issue, and I know now, but I didn't know back then. The actual issue at hand was the scarcity. It wasn't that I only had one girl that I was talking to, because that was actually a bonus, right? The issue was the scarcity. The reason why I found that I couldn't be honest with the women is because I was worried that I didn't have any more lined up. Yeah. So working with Kristian, flying to Poland, building the skill set, wrapping the skill set out when I came back to San Francisco, what it taught me was that there were actually tons of women in the city that I live in that would love to go on a date with me. It was just a matter of me picking up my balls, walking over to them, and then identifying them. I didn't know that before, right? Before working with Kristian, I assumed that 99% of San Francisco was out of my league. I assumed, because that was my experience up to that point. Yeah, every girl I swiped on didn't swipe back. Yeah, when I had the balls to muster up my shot when I was at, let's say, a bar or something, usually that didn't go anywhere. And it's like, so my evidence up until that point was women don't really like me, even though I had the six-figure job, even though I had the beard and the cool look and all of this stuff, right? My experience was every now and then, every few months, I can find a girl that likes me, but most of them don't want anything to do with me until cold approach. And that just broke my entire reality open, because it taught me that that wasn't the case at all. It was just that I hadn't been active enough. I hadn't been walking over to enough women to even come to that conclusion. Yeah, that there were a lot of assumptions being made. Kristian says that quote, the more I learn, the less I know, right? So this is one of those examples. Once I learned cold approach, I realized, wow, I thought that none of these women likes me, but that was just maybe my brain's way of keeping me safe. Don't walk over to that girl. She probably is not going to like you, right? But then you do it enough times, you find enough women that do like you, and you go, oh, this wasn't even true all along. Actually, there were plenty of women that liked me. And the women that in the past that I walked past thinking they don't want anything to do with me, there's a great chance they would have liked me also and gone on a date with me, right? So it's this, what I'm describing in this whole story is going from scarcity to abundance, right? Going from a guy with zero options to all of a sudden, through these thousands of approaches, you imagine I'm lining up plenty of dates through all of these approaches. So, okay, so continuing on with the answer then. Now I'm at a position in life where when I'm intimate with a girl, I can be very honest with her, yeah? And typically I'll wait for her to bring something up. This isn't information that I offer up. So just if somebody's trying to follow along, I don't typically just tell a girl on a first date, hey, by the way, I'm going to be fucking other women. So if you want to stick around, feel free. It's not something that I offer up. it's usually when the girl is trying to push for a relationship. So oftentimes this happens if I've seen a girl multiple times, and it's very natural for a girl to want to know like what direction the engagement is heading, right? That's very natural. And it's actually like I'd see it as abnormal if the girl didn't ask. I'd kind of be like, what? That's a little weird, right? The girl is kind of behaving like I behave, which is interesting. We're different, right? So yeah, when it does come up, I'm able to be very honest about it now. Yeah, and I got a video on my channel a few months back where I actually broke an example of this down with text threads and everything. But yeah, if she brings up some sort of oh, where is this going? One girl said, oh, I feel like a joke right now. Like some, you don't text me all the time, this and that. And they're kind of expecting that boyfriend. They're expecting me to transition to this boyfriend kind of a figure in their life. I'm able to stand very firm and really relay what I want to the girl. And this has ended so many, I mean, countless engagements. Yeah. This kind of a conversation has ended countless engagements. And it wasn't even the conversation that we had verbally. Maybe we didn't even talk about it. It's just that they can tell by the cadence at which I would reach out to them. They could tell even when we were together that I wasn't taking them out on actual proper dates and this and that. They can tell that I wasn't looking for a full blown relationship, right? Especially they're inviting me out to meet their friends. I'm avoiding that every time. I'm saying, no, let's do this instead. So they can tell that I'm not even looking for that. And so that the key here, we should pause here. A big thing that happens is oftentimes this is when the girl looks elsewhere, right? And this is what we need to be okay with. Yeah. So guys talk about how do you manage multiple relationships? Number one, it's being okay with that same girl leaving tomorrow, literally tomorrow, being completely fine with that. Like that's the big that she can feel that, right? When I'm telling her, oh yeah, by the way, just so you know, I'm not in a position where I want a capital G girlfriend. You could there are guys that could say that but not mean it, right? And the girl could really feel whether or not you mean that. She could feel it by your delivery, yeah, by what we talked about, by frequency at which you guys are communicating. So, but when she can tell that you actually mean what you're saying, then I have found over this past year and a half of having cold approach in my life, you know, when I actually have the abundance portion taken care of, and I'm actually lining up dates outside of this woman that I'm in front of right now, I'm able to, yeah, just be completely honest about it, and it's being okay with her not being okay with what I have to say, right? Maybe she hears what I have to say and she goes, "Fuck that! I thought that you wanted to be my boyfriend eventually. So you're telling me you don't? Okay, fine." And then she goes and finds somebody else. Usually, more often, what happens is she ends up getting a boyfriend a few weeks or a few months later, and I never hear from the girl again. Yeah, but it's being okay with that. Yeah, so, and then to finish off my answer, the last thing will be I think it definitely is seasonal because I'd say 6 months ago I was a lot more active. I had way more women that I was texting on a weekly basis that I was hanging out with, and it's funny how I also happened to be unemployed 6 or so months ago. Yeah. So I had a lot more free time. And with that free time, I was just filling it with whatever was the most fun and convenient. Right. So I actually found that while unemployed, it was easier to get dates lined up than it was to get the programming job that I was actually after. And so I ended up masking a lot of my free time with women. And I would go on these instant dates just because it was Tuesday at 1 p.m. and I didn't have a job. So why not? Right. Why not enjoy my skill set? And so yeah, this is kind of like I'm describing the law of diminishing return here when it comes to cold approach. It's so powerful of a skill set, but you do have to be careful because it can kind of become the sole focus or the main focus. And I think it should when you're building the skill set. But I think we can all agree like getting yourself employed and getting a solid job is a very important part of life that needs to be taken care of. That's something I was avoiding for a while because I was just having so much fun with the skill set. But yeah, just to go back to the answer, just to wrap it up, yeah, it was, I think it's seasonal. Yeah. So I was a lot more active. I had a lot more dates. I had a lot more quote relationships going on 6 months ago, simply because I was unemployed and I had more time. And so now I'm working full time. I'm grinding the sales job. I'm staying late hours so I could process these applications. My priority is commission check. But even though I say that, it's just great that my priority can be commission check. My dates can be tapering down, but yet I'm still going on these spontaneous dates even without necessarily trying, right? I'm still hopping on a live stream and saying, "Hey, Kristian, I feel like going on a date today," and then actually making it happen that same evening. So, and that's with me, that's with my main focus on work, my secondary focus on content, and then thirdly, approaching. Yeah. So that'd be my answer for this first question.
Yeah, and you've got your job in sales at the moment. You were work or you had sales experience before we worked together, which, and as we both know, and hopefully as the guys are coming to realize, seduction is sales. Like you were speaking about abundance, or abundant, it's not always having, it's knowing you can have. The person who's most prepared to walk away has all the power. Yeah, and the person who has the most cares the least. So now you're able to operate with full no bullshit transparency because of that sensation of abundance that you're now radiating. I've always liked the mantra, she can smell the abundance on you. Doesn't actually mean like a literal cologne, but it's the way you carry yourself, it's the way you act, it's the way you speak. We like to say a lot, it's not what you say, it's not how you say it, it's who you are when you say it. And that's the most important. Like identity is more important than your verbals, even your intonation. Like it's who you've become, that now you're actually able to have those conversations, being fully at peace with what a former version of you would have considered a perceived worst case scenario. Like, oh, I could have this really honest conversation and she might leave, but by doing that, you actually give her the freedom to choose, which is that's probably one of the most powerful purchasing positions you can give to somebody else. It's like if you're selling a product, it's, hey, listen, I've got this really great thing. It'll change your life in ways you can't imagine. But if you decide it's not for you, no problem, no hard feelings. So it's that high intention and low attachment. I think that's what you've been able to create now through the discipline of cold approach. It's like you've got the options. You know you can stack more options. You're able to have those conversations because it's coming from a place of wholeness rather than from a place of lack. And I think that's a missing piece in so many guys' lives at the moment. It's they don't have the ability to recreate choice for themselves. They can't cherry pick their best options because usually their loyalty is based off of scarcity. It's not a case of, oh, I want her. It's, oh, I just want someone. I'm lonely, right? But now you've unlocked this skill and you've taken it to the moon. You don't have to be settling in scarcity anymore. And I think at such a young age, the emotional maturity that you've developed, I think it's only going to get better from here. I think guys can spend decades feeling as though they're banging their head against a brick wall. They never get to experience that true sensation of what abundance actually feels like having the ability to just walk away, having the knowledge that, oh, this could turn to dust and I'm okay with that. So I think that's superb. And I think just understanding that the parallels between seduction and sales, like it just is as far as I'm concerned. I think if you can view it through that lens, you're able to play the game more rationally as opposed to emotionally. And I think we've all been guilty of that in the past, losing ourselves in relationships because we're scared of losing the relationship. That's emotion. When you can be rational and be like, oh yeah, cool, well, it is what it is. Move on. Some people might call it cutthroat or callous. I just see it as realistic.
Yeah, and it's also funny how I don't even think I could have pulled this off prior to cold approach. It's something that, yeah, I mentioned I was too scared to say this to women. Oh, actually, just so you know, I'm not looking for a relationship. I know that's you seem to be hinting that you are. I'm not. I couldn't even be this upfront with women prior to cold approach, and I imagine that if I had tried to, they would have taken the out every single time. Yeah, they would have exited every time, not just because of I didn't know what I was doing back then, but also because I wasn't this person quite yet. Yeah. And you just said it yourself. It's about who you are, less about the, like you said, the intonation, less about the delivery, less about the routines that you've memorized. It's more about the person. It's more about who you are. And so, yeah, I find that interesting as well. That just the fact that I can pull this off, just the fact that I can tell some girls this, and some of them actually still want to see me, still to this day, kind of, it blows my mind a bit. I'm going, wow, this is 3 years ago. I didn't think this would ever be possible for me. I didn't think I could have a smoking hot girl that's okay with me also going on these other dates and this and that. But yeah, it's just interesting what changes when you level yourself up. Yeah. So it's almost as if I'll be thinking this through in real time. It's almost as if she prefers this version of me non-exclusively than she does the older version of me exclusively. Yeah, it's like she would trade in that older version of Ephraim who didn't really know what he was doing, who had a lot less confidence, a lot less social freedom, but was willing to compromise on commitment, which I didn't even want to compromise on. she would trade that version of me in for this guy, even though I'm not giving her commitment, but I'm providing all of these other experiences that it seems as though are outweighing, what I'm not providing as far as the full boyfriend experience. So I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I just something I'm kind of thinking through. It does seem as though like it's just blowing my mind that I'm able to actually make this stuff happen for myself. But it all makes sense when you really think about it. If I have no attachment to the result, to the outcome, if I know that today, tomorrow, next weekend, I can most likely have a date lined up for myself by simply walking over to a handful of women, then it makes sense that I don't have to have much riding on this one girl anymore. And then it also makes sense if we're talking about human nature that you want what you can't have, right? And so if she can feel that I'm less attached than the older version of me, let's say, then she'll want that even more. And so yeah, it's psychology, but that's just an interesting angle, yeah.
Yeah, I think it speaks to the notion of desire, meaning oftentimes we perceive things to be valuable when we can see that other people perceive them to be valuable. So the reason why brands like Rolex, Chanel, Louis Vuitton, the reason why people want to own these things is because they know that other people want to own them. There's a really interesting concept called mimesis or mimetic desire, and essentially it's a Greek term, but if you actually understand it, it describes human nature perfectly, and it speaks about how we we are all essentially copying other people's desires. Like, why do you want the things that you want? Usually it's because other people want them, right? And it works the same in the game of attraction, right? Women want what other women want. No woman wants to be with a man that other women don't want. So if she can see that you are desired by other females, then it increases your overall perceived value, because it's almost like she starts to mimic the desires of the masses. So you were speaking about, I've always liked the quote, there's two things that make people miserable. It's not having what you want, and it's getting what you want. So I think if you make the decision to become exclusive, then I do think a part of the desire does die. And I think that's why it's then important, if you are going to enter a relationship, you have to continue being that version of yourself that she fell for in the first place. That's the important thing. I'm not saying never enter a serious relationship. I believe in the sacred communion between the masculine and the feminine. But I think where most guys fall short is they get the girl, but they don't focus on keeping her. They put so much emphasis on acquisition and not enough on retention. And then 2 months later, they stop going to the gym. They're playing Fortnite every other day. They put on 20 pounds, and then she goes, leaves them for fucking John the plumber. And then the guy's like, why did this happen? Well, Steve, it's because you stopped being her fantasy. Like, you stopped being the version of yourself that she fell for in the first place. So I think that this whole notion of pre-selection, it's a thing, it's important. It's probably one of the most powerful attraction triggers. And I think that if you are juggling these multiple relationships and she can still see that you are an object of desire, that's only going to increase her attraction. I do think there's a place where it eventually, it's like the rubber band effect. I think eventually it does snap. I think eventually she is going to be looking for serious commitment. And if she's not going to get that from you, then yeah, she'll probably go elsewhere. But it doesn't mean that she stopped thinking about you. Like, I don't know if you've had it yet, where maybe you've lost somebody and then a couple of months later, they boomerang back round. I've always found that to be quite an interesting concept.
Yeah, no, very interesting. And yeah, I think that, I mean, I agree with what you're saying there, and it makes sense that my unwillingness to enter into that capital B boyfriend position would make her want that even more. Yeah, that would like raise her attraction even more. And now yeah, no, that does make complete sense. It all comes back to desire, like you mentioned. So yeah, I don't know. I find that very interesting. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and for you now then, like what is it that, like, how does your life look at the moment? Obviously you're working your job, you've got different things on the go. Like, do you think there is actually a future for you in terms of like finding a capital G girlfriend? Like, is that something you've put much thought into? Are you just enjoying yourself for now? Like, is there a a Mrs. Ephraim on the cards, where maybe you're going to go back to Warsaw and get married and look for the world's best magician maybe to perform at your bar mitzvah. Not that you're Jewish, but it might be funny.
Oh, geez, yeah, that's a big question. There's so much that I still want to do that I still have in front of me. I think the mission is still just at the very forefront of my mind. I mean, firstly, it's money. Firstly, I just need to secure as many funds as possible, so that way I can unlock that international lifestyle that I was living that I really liked. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. It's not something that, like, if I've been presented with it multiple times over the course of the last few months, and this is over the dates that I've gone on, and this girl I'm seeing a few more times after the date, and now we're getting to that point. And every time it's a firm no from me. Yeah, and maybe it's not like she's literally saying there, "Will you be my boyfriend?" But it's like she's hinting at that, that's the direction she wants to take things. And yeah, I think even if it was a girl that ticked all the boxes, I haven't run into that girl yet, so I can't say this for certain, but I just find it hard to imagine that I would settle down, or, maybe that's the wrong phrase, but get into a serious relationship in this phase of my life at this age. And yeah, really, it's because I think I have a lot of maturing left to do. I think it all comes down to, like, the person that is getting into the relationship. So I agree with you. I think there's nothing wrong with exclusive relationships. I was raised thinking that was the only alternative, actually. But it's more about, I learned a lot about myself through my previous serious relationships. And at the time, my last one was when I was 21 years old. And I just learned that I'd become a completely different person. Like you mentioned, I let myself go oftentimes. I find it a lot easier to stay cuddling in bed than to get up and go to the gym, let's say in the morning or at night. And the compound effect does not lie. Yeah, it truly does start to show. So over that year where I was living with the girl, I didn't have much muscle prior to then, but whatever muscle I did have, it dissolved by the end of our lease term. By the time I moved out, I had this little tiny bit of belly fat there that I'd never seen on myself at 21 years old, right? I was letting my hair. I had the weirdest haircut going on at that time because I didn't really care that much. And I had no social life because I was like, well, I got this girl here. I don't need to go out to bars with my friends anymore. I already got a girlfriend, right? And so I just didn't like who I became. Yeah, and that's not her fault. That's my fault. And so that's why, whenever this question comes up, I have to look in the mirror and I have to go, am I ready yet? Like, do I think I have killed that version of myself that will fall into the comfort quicksand in a relationship? And right now, the answer isn't a firm yes. I can't say yes yet. I still think that if I had excess access to women, yeah, because in this case, it's more so like every few days, once every few weeks. It's not like I'm living with a girl, seeing her every day, right? That's a completely different story. So I think if I had this excess access, that it would definitely change my behavior, it would change my habits, and therefore it would change my life and the trajectory of my life, more importantly. So yeah, that's why I have a few videos that are pretty polarizing on my channel about this topic, and where I'm just kind of spewing my thoughts on the topic. But yeah, the underlying assumption is that you are a person that is still too immature for the relationship. Yeah, I think that if you've gotten to yourself to a point where you can still dial in on all of your good habits and you can still head to the moon with your girlfriend beside you, then that's a perfect. I mean, I think at that time is when I would love to get into a relationship. Yeah, but I just know myself now, having been in that relationship 3 years ago, and I just know that 3 years is a long time, but it's not a long enough time to get rid of all of the things I didn't like about myself in that relationship. And so, yeah, I guess I'm still in a phase where and then also, that's the technical answer. The other answer is just I'm having a lot of fucking fun, man. I'm having a lot of fun with all of these different women from different countries, different accents, different cultures, backgrounds, stories, upbringings. Yeah, we bond over different topics, and some of these girls, they're 5 to 10 years older than me, and so I'm getting intergenerational, and it's just a lot of fun proving to myself that this is even possible, right? Even when I was working with you in Warsaw, I still would have thought that a 35-year-old would want nothing to do with me at this stage in my life. Yet I've proven that wrong to myself multiple times already. Yeah, and I've documented it on my channel too. And it's like I'm just having a lot of fun with the skill set. This was really why I reached out to you initially, is because I had that FOMO. I was like, some guys are living this dating life. I just want to know what it's like. What does it feel like to be the guy that's able to live out that dating life? And then I was also curious about what other areas of my life would change if I was able to live this out. And so, as we've documented on a bunch of live streams, it's such a powerful skill set, because not only does it sort out the dating life portion, but it also sorts out your low self-confidence, your low self-image, your low self-esteem. It sorts out, like we talked about, your scarcity. Now you show up differently when you hang out with your friends. Now you show up differently to work. So yeah, kind of a long-winded answer.
No, it's good. I think, yeah, I think there's so many different avenues. I think I've come to the conclusion that everything works. Like everything can work. Like I'm in a relationship at the moment, and I see a lot of conversations online, like, oh, stay single, bro. Like, stay single for the next 10 years. Like, hustle, grind. Like, sacrifice your 20s so you can, I don't know, buy a chip shop in your 30s. And like, I do understand that to a degree, but I find the biggest benefit of a relationship is it holds a mirror up to myself like 24/7. And being in this relationship, it's forced me to become better because I've sunk into the complacency. Every other relationship I've ever had in my life, I've always lost myself in that relationship because I was scared of losing the relationship. But this is the first relationship that I've had where I've genuinely become better because of it. Because like since this relationship, I've started learning to fight. I've started doing Muay Thai in Bangkok. I've made more money. I've improved my content. Like everything has improved. And I think the reason for it is probably primal because I feel responsible for another human being. There's a 6 year age gap, which I really like. I feel responsible. It's like having a child in a way, because it's like when I've heard the statistic, like when a man has his first child, his income increases by 20% because now he's got more of that burning desire. In all my relationships in the past, the burning desire was diffused. I was like, all right, cool, I've got the girl. It's time to just like slack off. So I think we have to make those mistakes in order to learn. But now it's like not game over, it's game on. And I use her for accountability as well. Like she was a reason why I was like, oh, I'm gonna start doing Muay Thai. And she was like, oh, that's really cool. And it's like, there's no way that I can pussy out on that now. That's like kissing goodbyes to the relationship. There's no point in saying to her, by the way, I'm gonna go Muay Thai, buying the fucking pink Muay Thai shorts. And then she's like, oh, how was it? I'm like, well, let's talk about like it just it's never going to work. Like she's not going to be turned on by a guy she can't respect, and she ain't going to respect a guy who can't keep his word. Because like, oh well, if he can't keep his word on the Muay Thai gym, like where else can I not be able to trust him? So I see both sides of it, and I think you're in the season of your life where you've worked your bollocks off to get to where you're at. Like you said to me when before we even worked together, you want this abundance, you want the skill, any girl, anytime, anywhere. You've got that. So I think fucking like fair play to you. Enjoy the fruits of your labor. Enjoy this particular season. Enjoy being a boy, I think, as well. I think sometimes, myself included, it's easy to get caught up in taking life very seriously. But I think enjoy being a boy whilst you can. You've got eons to make money, but a small amount of time to be a boy. And I think a lot of the high achieving guys who we both know, guys who I work with, guys who are in the entourage, it's being able to find the fun again, like reconnecting with the child inside of ourselves. I think that's why the group is so valuable because we've got guys in their 50s who are able to learn off someone like you. And like you're able to take value from a 50-year-old, and a 50-year-old is able to see what you're doing. You still got that zest, that lust for life. You've not been bogged down by like 5 decades of hard labor and divorces and just all the shit that comes along with like life. So I think that's why the group functions so effectively, because we've just got all of these different guys from all different areas of life. We never would have met if it hadn't been for the discipline of cold approach. I've always likened the YouTube algorithm to God operating in disguise. I truly believe that the people who are in my life right now, we're always destined to meet. Like you, girlfriend, all these people. I just think that it's special that we're able to bond over something like this because I don't know. I guess it's similar to guys who go to war together. There's a special bond which is created between men who cold approach. One of my good German friends, who's an absolute cyborg when it comes to cold approach, he said, "Never judge a man until you've seen him in set." And he said it with his German accent. And I've always loved that you can just imagine the deadpan German going to the techno type of voice. But he's right, because until you can actually put yourself into that uncomfortable situation, a cold approach conversation, feeling shit scared, not knowing what you're going to say next, feeling as though it's all going to blow up in your face. Like I've got nothing but the utmost respect for people who are prepared to just put themselves in the fire. And I think a really special bond is created. I think guys will find this along their journey. It's the people you meet, it's the friendships that you form, it's the brotherhoods that you forge. Yeah, like the women are nice, beautiful women, beautiful byproducts of a beautiful life. I think once you've got your boys around you, you're traveling the world, you're making memories, you're sharing stories. Like, oh, I remember when I did that approach in Cyprus and this thing happened, and it's just cool, isn't it? And I just think, I don't know, it's not for everybody, it's not for the faint-hearted, but I just think there's a special bond that's created between guys who are in this space. I think the right people will find us, and the right people will get ahead.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I don't remember where I read this. There was a girl version of this, but then the male version was guys, their friendships are created, or like the bond is created through achievement, through effort and achievement. And so they compared this to, like you mentioned, two guys at war, the common goal is kill the enemy. Or for me, a very minor example for me would be, I had friends that I met out at bars, and we were just acquaintances while we were hanging out. But then as soon as we started playing pickup basketball together, all of a sudden our friendship grew and the bond was stronger because we were trying to achieve the common goal of beating the other team. And so there's just a lot of like you said, the word primal. Yeah, it just felt more primal. We're just running, throwing the ball, jumping, just trying to score, trying to win. And yeah, there's just this bond created. I looked over, I'm like, that guy has my back. Yeah, that guy's gonna try to help me fix my mistakes when I mess up on defense. He's gonna serve me the ball when I'm open to score. And so, yeah, same thing in the entourage. It's like, but times a million, because now our goal, right? Instead of our goal being let's score the basketball, our goal in the entourage is let's go get over this incredibly difficult fear of walking over to the girl on the sidewalk and then actually learning how to yield results from that. So you imagine that, that process, it doesn't take a pickup basketball game length of time, right? That process can take months at a time, right? If we're talking somebody that, had a very low self-image, self-confidence when we met, let's say, and then, or, when they join the entourage, you've got to have something about you already. But I guess I'm describing a guy that would be like a lot further than where I was when I met Kristian. Yeah, a lot further behind socially, but same mentality, same attitude, right? Which is what we're looking for. Well, then that guy, you can expect it would take quite a bit more time for that guy to achieve the same result that, let's say, I've been able to accomplish. And so that's what we mean, though, by that bond being created. So you imagine I'm sending the guy voice notes, and we got 30 other members sending him voice notes over the course of these few months. And there is a connection that's created. There is this brotherhood, this camaraderie that's built because we're just going through, we're watching this guy go through one of the most difficult, psychologically difficult seasons of his life. And we're helping pull him through it, and we're encouraging him through it. That's exactly what was done for me. Yeah, that's what Kristian and the other guys were doing for me when I was going through my immersion in Poland, just pouring on the encouragement. And so, yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. Yeah, there's just this different level of bond that is made. And that's why the entourage feels so set and so secure and so legitimate. Yeah, it's a group like none other because the common thread is cold approach. And so if I know that every guy beside me has also gone through that, has also been in the trenches, been in front of the girl, gotten over his fear, then there's just this level of like default respect that I have for him. And I have, I listen, his words weigh a bit more to me because I already know he's been through something that I also have been through. Versus a guy who is just a keyboard warrior. Well, he could say a million things, but it's kind of going to go in one ear and out the other because he hasn't actually put any reps in. So yeah, I was just piggybacking off of what you said, but I completely agree. Yeah, it's just there's a different kind of bond that's built. So the entourage really is a special place. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're right about the unique selling point being the emphasis placed on cold approach, because I go into YouTube quite often. I just like find out what's going on with the world. Usually I go down a rabbit hole and just start watching these bizarre esoteric videos about astrology. But within the weeds of all these things, I always find guys who are selling some like self-improvement community. So like I'll go on the little tab and see what they're selling. Like it's all the same shit. It's like, okay, yeah, well, get in shape, gratitude journal, meditation. I'm like, okay, yeah, cool, but like, where's the actual action? Like, where's the exposure therapy? Like, I enjoy things which are difficult. I enjoy being able to do things that other people can't do. That's why I started fighting. That's why I did solo skydiving. It's why I became a magician. It's why I wanted to look. I'm attracted to the obscure side of life. I enjoy that. I think our community is a reflection of that. It's not a community for guys who want to settle for mediocrity. It's not a community of guys who want to be ordinary. It's for guys who reject the ordinary world, who reject mediocrity, who are like, you know what, I actually want more from my life than dating app, social circle, grotty nightclub. And also, I want to expand everywhere. But we place the emphasis on cold approach because I believe that once you can do that confidently, you can do anything that you want to do. Like I know for me, I thought I was confident before I got started with cold approach. I just had situational confidence. Take away my deck of cards and my little rope. That's not a euphemism. I didn't have the confidence anymore. But it's given me that core confidence where I can just walk through the world being like, okay, no matter what, I can handle it. I think that's great, but I think that when you introduce other like-minded people around you, like guys who actually understand it, like guys who are on the same frequency as you, guys who you can share stories with and not feel judged about it, I think that's where the true transformation happens. And even like the discussion that we're having right now, I wouldn't be able to have these discussions with people that I went to school with. They would think I was weird. I mean, most of them do, which is fair. I accept that. But like, I wouldn't have these conversations with them. And it's not because they're bad people. It's because they're just no longer my people. I think it's okay to retain a social circle. Like, you can have your friends who you go out and play pool with, and you don't need to talk to them about this stuff. It's like trying to shove religion down the throat. It's like they're just not those people. Like those are your pool friends, not your cold approach friends. Those are your basketball friends, and that's fine. But for me, the deepest connections that I have now, it's the guys inside the entourage because I know that nothing is off bounds, and also like just the wins that I've been getting stacked recently. You know, we've got guys who are overcoming addictions, like getting free from nicotine, getting to an incredible shape. That's all great, but I just know like at the core of it all, it's cold approach. And I think that's where what we put out there, it's different to what people will find in other like cold approach content channels because most people are talking about technicalities. Now here's what to say, here's how to say it. You should stand here. That stuff's useful, but really I think we're focused on identity, not chasing a goal, chasing an identity, who you become through this process, and then you use this skill as a way of delivering your value to the world. So no idea how that links to anything that we've just spoke about. It probably does. I could probably find a really nice way to tie it all together, but this is just my way of saying that this skill has completely transformed every aspect of my life, and I just think it's a modern day rite of passage.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to add something onto the end of what you were saying there, which was you're talking about it's identity, right? People are so stuck on how do you say it? I love that. Where do I stand? That's hilarious. And something that I wanted to add that kind of blows that exact argument that you're talking about apart is, well, I've been able to secure dates with women where the actual mechanics of the approach were pretty piss poor. Yeah, meaning that maybe one girl I walked up to and I was very nervous. I hadn't said anything to any girl that day, and I sounded very weak and feeble. Yeah, I remember one off the top of my head, the girl from Brazil that had already passed me, and so I was walking to catch up to her on this narrow sidewalk, and I said, "Excuse me," when I was 5, 10 feet behind her. She had to turn around, look at me, and decide to stop for me. And then I walked my way in front of her, and that's how we had a date lined up. She could have easily glanced back, thought, "What the hell, homeless guy," and then kept running, you know. But no, she turned and she stopped. But that's what we're talking about, identity, right? She wouldn't have stopped for me 2, 3 years ago when she looked back, and I looked the same. That's the best part is I looked the same. So that's what there is this underlying characteristic that this we do all these live streams trying to point out and put a finger on, but there is something that changes in guys that overcome this fear. Yeah, it's just this certainty. Yeah, it's the way that I said excuse me. Yeah, she turns around, it's the way that I told her to stop. Wait, 2 seconds, stop, 2 seconds, you look at me, right? It's just like, but the certainty is there simply because of all of the reps that I put in prior to going up to that girl, right? So you can't even expect to have any results close to that until you put in the same reps that I have, for example, or equivalent, yeah, equivalent in another department, whatever that would mean. So it's like, yeah, I don't know why I added that in. I just thought that was an interesting thing to add on. I was a little obsessed with that at first too. When we were doing our immersion, which is to be expected, I'd go back with Kristian. I would consult. How was I standing? You would tell me things about what you saw. Oh, she was facing the sunlight. She had to do this the entire time while talking to you. Maybe turn her around next time. And so that was great for the mechanics and the technicalities and just tying up any loose ends that I had with the actual walking over to the girl. That's, the immersion. That's where you get all of that information out. But once you have that set in stone in your mind and you can execute that consistently, now it's about actually just going in for as many reps as you can. And funny enough, I would encourage you to stray away from the model that you were given, right? So that's kind of what I did too. Is in Poland, I walked over. Excuse me, do you speak English? Hi, and then I would go in with what I had to say. Here in San Francisco, I switch it up a bit every now, depending on how I'm feeling, depending on the time of day, depending on what mode of transportation I'm using. Sometimes I got my little e-skateboard with me, and I'm going. I was skating past. I had to double back. You look so amazing, but that's part of the fun. That's what makes this into an art. Yeah, no, I guess I was going to say no more PUAs, but it stands for artist anyways. But I truly think that this is it's very malleable. You don't have to fit yourself into this cookie cutter. Oh, Kristian says this, Ephraim says this, I must say this. You find your own flavor, you find your own style. But I mean, it took me thousands of reps to find my own style. Yeah. So
There's gonna be that one guy who steals that skateboarding line, and he doesn't even have a skateboard. He was like, I
I'm
just
skating
saw you.
fast.
I was just on my skateboard, and she's like, "Where's the skateboard?" Oh, that's
He's like, I
actually
don't
brilliant.
know. Pole University told me to say that. Shit.
Yeah, my name's Steve with a K. It's like the Kardashians, but I don't have a jacuzzi. That's really funny.
That's
There
good.
will be people out there. There will be people out there who are literally downloading our videos, putting it into like ChatGPT and being like, right, give me a new version of this, and then just going out with the phone and reading it like the gospel. Yeah, I think just to reinforce what you were saying, I think yeah, you do the immersion, you learn everything, and it's like you learn it all so you can forget it all. That's how all the best artists usually end up. You look at someone like Picasso; he could create these masterpieces, but eventually in his career, he got to a point where he's like, "Yeah, I can draw better than anybody else, but I want to go really simple." And he started doing all this like cubist crazy shit, and then he was remembered for that. He was remembered for stripping back, and it's the same with this as well. Like you will learn it all, and then the goal is to forget it all. And that's how you discover, I think, your own approach to this. It's where you can be empty-headed, say whatever comes to you in the moment. If you run out of shit to say, no worries. That's the topic of conversation. So it's a transfer of certainty, is how I like to describe. Good game is the transfer of certainty. And oftentimes being certain doesn't mean that you know what to say. It's I will be okay with whatever happens because I'm certain in my own capabilities. It's the transfer of certainty, and I don't think you can fake that. I think it's something you learn through action, through consistent action. I think that's the importance of having a community around you as well, because the community will hold you accountable. It's like, did you go out today? How many approaches did you do? It's like Richie in the Entourage. A guy went from an incel for 4 years to now meeting his dream woman, right? 4 year dry spell, and we've been witnessing his progress. And you were saying before about he started way further back than you, right? But it's the friendship that we've all formed with him have come because it's been super difficult for him, because he's from where he started to where he's at now. People will meet you, they'll see you on these live streams. They didn't see the version of you who picked up the phone and spoke with me. It's the same with Richie. When you guys come into the Entourage, they'll meet Richie like fucking Mr. Tony Montana, no fucks given. He's like, yeah, went out today, did 100 approaches, no problem. And it's like, but like, we've all like the privilege of being able to be with these guys from the start. And like I have these thoughts all the time. Like imagine when we just start getting invited to these people's weddings. Like that's a crazy thought. And it's like being there, like from the absolute start, like in the trenches, in the mud. That's I think like the true friendship. 'Cause it's like it's you just see everybody as they are rather than as they're trying to present themselves to be. So yeah, I just think everyone's on their own journey. We're all operating on our own timeline, but I think when you've got those like-minded guys around you, it just makes it more enjoyable as well. Like obviously, we're talking about semi-serious topics on this stream, you need to have a laugh with it as well. You know, you can't take yourself too seriously. You can't take yourself too seriously. You can't take the approach too seriously. You can't take the girl you're speaking with too seriously. It's all just a bit fucking funny, really. You know, when you actually have that zoomed out perspective, there's a 1 in 400 trillion chance of us being born. We're floating around this crater. You know, we respect the sun, but it could potentially kill us one day. Probably will. But it's just weird. It's just crazy. It's just a bizarre existence. So yeah, I just think just doing our best not to get too carried away in the seriousness. You know, we're alive, we can walk, we can breathe, lead with gratitude, be happy to be alive and do all this cool stuff. Like we get to feel all these things. Yeah, and then just go forth and just do your best, you know, it's or do what's necessary, I suppose. But yeah, I think just make sure that you're having fun and you're surrounded by the right people and you'll be all right.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. Not this isn't. I mean, it feels serious, but it definitely isn't something to be taken with the utmost seriousness. Like you mentioned, you go through Christian's videos, you go through my videos, you'll see I stole his style, where all my conversations are just bullshit, anyways. Yeah, once when I'm actually talking to the girl and I'm in front of her and we're locked in and I can tell she likes me, then she's asking me questions. I'm not even giving her real answers. I was on a date with a UK girl recently. She goes, "So, what's your life story?" She tells me she starts introducing these like date topics. I said on my own live stream, I was like, I feel like she read these questions off of like the cover of a magazine, like what to say on dates or something. And I'm just answering like complete bullshit questions. I was born on a farm in Nicaragua. I was raised as a farmer. I had a boat that I sailed across to get to California. It's just like that's what Kristian's talking about. Just having fun with all of this stuff. The fun, the carefreeness definitely does come through with who you are. Yeah, with your delivery. I don't know. And I think that's a very like I get a lot of feedback from girls on dates that tell me that they like this personality that I've been able to develop. And maybe they can't really put a finger on what it is that they like about me, but I'm willing to bet that a lot of it has to do with most 99% of guys that I pass by are these stern, serious man, masculine, man, tough. And then I rock up to the date and I got a fucking pink hat on and I'm born in Nicaragua. It's just, and I'm just bullshitting the whole date. And it's like, I don't know. Yeah, I think that is a big portion of it. Is just my willingness, or sorry, my ability to not take this all so seriously. My ability to remind myself, literally on the date, floating rock theory. This is not going to matter. We're in an infinitely expanding universe. Like what does that even mean? So none of this really. You don't have to take life so seriously. You don't have to take these women so seriously. You don't have to take the art of cold approach so seriously. All you need to do is put in the reps. Yeah, just focus an intense period of time on putting in the reps, and then you'll get past that phase and your future self will thank you for that phase of your life where you just dedicated yourself to building this skill set. Because that's what I'm doing. On a daily basis. Every time I go on this new date, I meet a new girl, I'm just looking back and going, shout out to May 2023 and different software services and products. And it was to solve a very niche problem. It was an important problem, don't get me wrong, but it's a very, very niche, very specific problem that a certain part of the population was going to face. We're solving literally like 1/3 of human problems if we categorize it as like, career, health, and then relationships. We are literally helping guys solve 1/3 of that pie chart. Yeah. It is such a big part of life. Yeah. I mean, how many books have it documented that if you don't have this side of life taken care of, life is miserable. Yeah. That's the case for any of the three. If you have a great, abundant dating life and you're healthy, but you are just absolutely poor, barely scraping by, well, life is not going to be the greatest. Yeah. Same thing. You got a great job and you're healthy, but no dating life. Life is going to be absolutely miserable. As I have learned, as you know, as plenty of the guys know, life is miserable if you have everything sorted, but you can't get a girlfriend, right? So we are helping guys solve one of the biggest quadrants, or I guess thirds of life in general, which is loneliness, yeah, which is validation, which is feeling worthy, which is just all of these different adjectives that we can use. It's just very interesting. I think it's such an important space. Yeah, that's why I decided to put this content out, is because whatever flack, whatever negative feedback I get back from the wrong side of the internet, it's not going to outweigh the potential impact that I can have where we take a guy let's just use you as the case study. Yeah, we can use you and Richie, and then we can use you and me. You and Richie, you and me. You took both of us from a position in life that we did not want to be in, and you walked us through the steps that you took in order to get us to a position in life that we're just completely happy with and satisfied with. And so it's like, if I can make that impact on a person's life through this skill set, then it seems way more valuable than writing some software lines or selling some apartments. So yeah, I don't know. I figured I had to add that in. Yeah, I'm really appreciative of the entourage of this whole space, the decisions you took, the decisions you made as a magician, a young, scared magician who decided, you know what, who's this guy Tommy T?
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's one of those where the notion of health, wealth, relationships, like the big three, it's an area of life that I think we all know deep down that it's an area we want to get sorted. But I think, especially career, especially the accumulation of wealth, it can become this notion of escapism. You know, it's like, oh, I'll get the women once I'm making X amount of money, or the classic mantra, build it and they will come. You know, just wait till you've got the money, wait till you're making 6 or 7 figures, wait till you've got the penthouse, and they'll knock on your door, bro. I remember I've had this conversation so many times with Richie, just sat down in whatever swanky venue he takes me to. And he's just like, in his very matter of fact way, he's just like, yeah, it's just fucking bullshit, isn't it? It's like, yes, it is. But like, he can say it as well. You know, this whole like, oh, become a high value man. He's like, I am a fucking high value man, and I wasn't getting a sniff. I was an incel for 4 years. So like, the information is just not true. And I'm not saying it doesn't work for everybody. Like, I'm sure the guys out there who just completely just did ignore women, and maybe, I don't know, they got lucky with Sally in like year 5 geography. I'm not saying that those examples don't exist, but I just think, like, as a man, your ability to have a family, to replicate your DNA, to procreate, it is directly linked to your ability to have the confidence to say hello. So I think going just as hard with your relationships as you have done with your career. And I found why I actually found interesting, the final thing I'll say is, a lot of successful guys, the reason why they struggle so much in this space is because they're used to winning in their career. But when it comes to a discipline like day game and learning cold approach from scratch, they have to feel like a beginner again. And they've almost forgot what it feels like to lose, and to lose bad. Because that's what's going to happen when you first get started with cold approach. Your first 100 direct cold approaches, it's like, they are purely batting practice, and you're going to get slapped in the face so many times. So you need to give yourself permission to suck. But with a lot of the successful guys that I work with at the start, it's like they've just forgot how to lose because they're so used to winning in their career. And then when it's like, right, go approach her, that's when all the self-limiting beliefs that they've buried deep within themselves, like they've tried to mask it with their career and their status symbols and their materialistic trophies, like we described, it's the ultimate equalizer. The streets don't give a fuck about what your bank balance is or what car you drive in. All they care about is who you are when you present yourself. And yeah, I just think it's been an interesting revelation for me. And I'm happy that I didn't get brainwashed by the brain dead into wanting to want what other people told me I should want to want. It's like we were talking before about mimetic desire. It's like, why do you want these things? Like, why do you want a nice car? Why do you want an expensive watch? Why do you want to buy a nice penthouse? I do believe it is all linked at some level biologically to attracting a partner. So I think, rather than focusing your time, energy, and resources on things that could get you a partner, invest it into something that actually will, which is your ability to present yourself in a non-needy, unapologetic way. I want you, but I don't need you. And you're only going to learn that by spending time in the trenches and taking massive action. So, yeah. I don't know if you wanted to say anything else before we do the grand finale.
Yeah, no, it's just that build it and they will come. Biggest lie told to our generation, yeah, and maybe even the previous generation. Build it and they will come. Yeah, what a huge lie. Yeah, no, it's all like you say. It's all about just the action that you are able to put forth. It doesn't really matter. I mean, in my experience, I can't speak much. Shoot, I haven't built much, but we have got Richie, which, I mean, what better example of a high roller that, like you mentioned, was not able to find any success, and he's looking around. What are these guys talking about? Build it, and you will come. They will come. And the final thing I just wanted to say was I just wanted to introduce, just a thought, which is we only get to see, well, I guess people only get to see the internet versions of us and the internet versions of other creators, right? What we reveal to them. And of course, I try to reveal as much as possible. This is why I put my rejections, and so do you, and I put my losses, and so do you, just to show, reveal just as much as possible. But I just wanted to introduce the thought, which was these guys that they claim build it and they will come, ignore women for 10 years, hop on this red pill grind with me. We're going to the gym at 5 a.m. We wake up at 4 because the world is sleeping and we're better, blah, blah, blah. I wonder what their life looks like when the camera is turned off. Yeah, these guys that like they're proclaiming to the internet that they're ignoring women and they're grinding and they're full gung ho red pill, right? I wonder what their life looks like when the camera is turned off. Because when the camera is turned off for me, my life is amazing as far as dating life. I'm going on dates. I've got dates lined up. I got this going on. Oh, I just met UK girl, this and that. When their camera is turned off, yeah, I imagine that they're living a reality similar to what I was living back in, let's say, 2022, where I had the money, where I already looked pretty sick and pretty body max, where I already had this look to me. But as soon as I would clock off of work, my remote programming job, I'd close my laptop and I'd look around in my empty apartment. I'd have my roommate next door. I didn't even like him that much. And I would just hate life. I would hate where I was. I would hate the position that I was in life. I would think like, I used to wash windows for a living. Now I'm making 6 figures with doing half the effort, and I'm still not satisfied. I'm still not happy with my life. Like, what is the solution to this? Yeah. And all along, the solution was fixing the lack of dating options. Yeah. So that's all. I just wanted to introduce the thought, which is I know how much life sucked when I was going months at a time without getting laid. It was absolutely miserable. Yeah. And I spent so much time on these apps, these dating apps, time that I didn't actually want to spend on them. It's just I didn't have a choice. My testosterone was overriding my my normal brain function, my clear brain function. The testosterone was just taking over. It was just I was just standing there on Tinder and Bumble, swipe, 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 hoping something came of it. So I just wonder. Yeah, I just wonder what these guys' lives are like, that they say build it and they will come, join me on this journey where we ignore women for the next 9 years while we we get our doctorate degree or whatever. It's like, props to you, guy. You are proving something when it comes to sacrifice. But yeah, I wonder what their day-to-day really looks like, because for us, we turn the camera off. For you, you've got a girlfriend. For me, I've got this fun dating life in San Francisco when the camera turns off for me. But for these guys, it's like, well, they got the bench press and they got the protein shake that they're drinking and the content that they watch. But it's like, yeah, they're missing a huge portion of life. And I imagine that they're not being as honest with their viewers on like how excruciatingly painful that part probably is. Yeah. Like it's easy saying, yeah, ignore women for 9 years until you go a month without getting laid. And then you're like, wait a second, there's a lot of buildup going on. And then you're 6 months without getting laid. And you've been watching, I bet they're watching the same porn and this and that. It's like, yeah, anyways, I just want to introduce that thought to wrap up. I don't know if you have any thoughts on it.
Well, that's why you need to buy the $997 course. That's where all
Of
the
course.
value is shared.
How could I forget? How could I?
Yeah, you just need to you just need to do more mewing. Have you heard about mewing?
Oh, do I know? Do I know? When I was 19, I bought a tool called Jawzrsize so I could get my jawline.
The ball, where you
The ball, dude, that should be true. I was convinced that that's why I couldn't get laid back then. Oh, you just reminded me of something. I bought this $50 Jawzrsize ball. It only lasted me a week before I forgot about it, and I was convinced that as soon as I had this 10 out of 10 jawline, that the girls would be sprinting towards.
That is actually so funny. I remember seeing Joe Rogan. He did like an advert about it, like popularizing it and stuff. I'm just like, what the fuck, man? Like, this is literally poison being spread into the mind of young men. Like, I have some really, really, really good conversations with Joseph. I know we both know really well. Shout out to Joseph, heartbeat of the Entourage. And yeah, he's made the point in a lot of his videos, just saying how men are becoming women in regards to how much time that they're spending on their physical appearance. I've certainly been guilty about that in the past. Look, I think it's important to take care of yourself, of course, but I think whenever you start taking things to the extreme, where you're just checking yourself in the mirror every 10 seconds, like, oh, is my jaw looking good? Are my arms looking good? Like all this stuff, it derails you from the moment, right? I think that's what the truly compelling part of our personalities are. it's being able to just be tapped into the moment, enjoy ourselves, be present in that conversation. Like, who is this person in front of me? Rather than just being like in our head thinking, oh fuck, like I need to be posturing the certain way. I need to have the imaginary lats and have a barrel between my legs, like I'm some fucking like John Wayne archetype. But yeah, I think it's so there's so much bullshit information online these days. So much bullshit. I think that the guys that we attract, I think they're done with the bullshit. They know what works. They know what doesn't work. They know they need to take massive action. They know they need a community of like-minded guys. They know that they need to be like not consuming as much and just be active players rather than static spectators. All the information's there. All the information's there. What people need is implementation. I think just like having a digital detox as well. I do this periodically where I just don't watch any content for a week, like 7 days, just to give myself a break, because like the algorithms are so addictive. Even when you're being brainwashed, it can be so addictive. You go take a shit at like 2 a.m. It's like, oh, I wonder what's going on in the world. Next thing you're down some fucking rabbit hole with some guy being like, you have to be 6'7" and jacked. I'm like, I didn't sign up for this shit. So I signed up for this shit, but not that shit. So yeah, I think being a connoisseur of content, recognizing that most of the stuff online is bullshit, but I think you have to have a decent bullshit detector on you. And none of it really matters at the end of the day because we're all gonna be dead. So anyway, with that with that said, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me. I run a documentary channel, Pull University.
Documentary channel? What do you do? Photograph pandas?
Usually I'm out in the wild. Remember I told you I was raised in Nicaragua on a farm, so typically I've got a few koalas in the cage. No, I call it documentary channel specifically because that's all I do at this point. I think at one point I would have called it like a dating advice channel maybe, but I don't think that's necessarily accurate anymore. I'd say yes, I'm giving advice, but it's not advice from like I'm sitting on a throne as the teacher telling you. It's more of like, here's what I did yesterday. This is what I learned. Here's what you can learn, kind of a thing. So, yeah, I really like that documentary term. Right now, what it is I have been making videos with my cousin as of recent, where I go out and I approach women in public, and sometimes I have props in my hands, which you can go and find, and then also I just do a lot of live streams. I think the core content for me is going to be the live streams, where I just talk about very recent events, and then I break down dates that I just went on, dates that I'm going on, phone numbers that I got, how I met the girl, this and that. And I think it's just very fun to follow along with if you are somebody that is also going to be taking action. I think if you're somebody that's looking for entertainment, then my channel is the last place you'd want to click. You can find way more fun channels. You can look up Dan Blazarian. But if you're looking for actual like implementable advice or implementable content just in general, then yeah, I find that a lot of the guys that are sticking around and a part of my community, they come around for the live streams and they comment about what they're going through and the approaches that they recently did, and we kind of talk through them in real time. So I think it's just valuable because with Kristian's content, with my content, you get guys that are actually in the becoming. Yeah, you get guys that are building. We're in the building, driving phase of our life still. We're not 45 looking back trying to teach all the 23-year-olds how to walk up to the girl, even though we're married with 7 kids. It's like we're truly in the building phase. And so you get to be alongside the teacher while the teacher is learning. And I think that's just the coolest angle. So you can find me there. And then, of course, as always, a very early member of the Entourage, early bird member, you can find me in the Entourage if you can manage to make your way into it. Criteria is very strict. You have to be one of the select few men on this earth that's able to actually make it through the application process. So you'll know more about that once doors reopen. But yeah, I'd encourage you to submit your application so at least you can be there when Kristian decides to reopen doors.
Yeah, it's crazy as well. Speaking about Dan Bilzerian, like one of the very early members of the Entourage, he's come a long way. I tell you, I always knew he had potential, but fucking hell, like my coaching has really had an incredible effect. Like, can't believe what he's done for himself. It's mad. We worked together in Belarus, 1922. Jesus Christ, that guy, man, that guy. Someone will probably take that seriously. Like, you didn't coach
Oh, show me the receipts, Kristian.
Yeah, that's funny.
No, I remember Dan. I remember my last story. I remember my friend when I was a freshman in high school. I remember the bench I was sitting on when he showed me Dan Blazarian's Instagram, and I remember that day I looked at it and I thought, "This is possible? Like, is this even real?" Come to find out, 10 years later, no, the guy bought all the models anyways and put them on the yacht for props. But still, I mean, shit, I guess we're about as close as we can get, and this is authentic, so I think that's pretty cool. Maybe that sparked something, seeing Dan's Instagram page. So I'm glad that you coached him early on, man. I'm glad that you're able to be an early influence.
Yeah, I think with all this stuff, I think it's just like get your motivation and get your optimism from wherever you can find it. Do you know what I mean? If looking at Bilzerian's profile gets you out of bed in the morning and makes you want to dominate the day, fucking good luck to you. Wherever you get your kicks from. I like watching like Teletubbies dancing. That just really gets me in the mood to just go out, hit a solid gym session and just really take this shit to the moon. So yeah, if you like
Yeah.
Teletubbies, then consider subscribing. I'll put your links in the title and I'll put your links in the description so people can go over. And yeah, just follow along. I like the fact that it's the becoming and not the being, and people can just be there with you in the trenches and yeah, just be along on this journey with you. So listen, thank you very much for, as always, for just dedicating your time. It's just truly inspiring to just see what you're building and you continuing to just put out life changing content. And I think a decade from now, it's crazy where you're going to be. And yeah, I think guys are lucky that they're catching you early. So yeah, just bucket loads of adoration for you. And yeah, this is just very much the start of everything for you. So yeah, it's just really privilege and honor to be here with you. So yeah, with all that being said, I'll let you get on with the rest of your day. I know you've got important sales to do and things to sell to people. You're going to Las Vegas as well soon, so that'll be nice. Say hello to your dad for me, and we'll do it again another time. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I think he knows you by name at this point. So,
Oh
anyways,
yeah.
to glory we go, huh?
Yeah, to
Stay
glory we
sexy,
go.
my friend.
I stay sexy.